Hey guys, how we doing? It's another episode of Blue Mafia. I'm Jared, your host, passionate Bills fan of the game, fan of leadership, quarterback, and football culture. And we're going to talk a little culture today. We're going to break down the Bills, obviously, hometown here in the Elmwood Village of Buffalo, New York, raised in the burbs of Cheekta, Vegas. We're going to talk a little bit about the new culture that is clearly established. We're also going to talk about the Bears culture that was clearly established yesterday and just the unfortunate nature of some cultures not working out and how the quarterback and leadership, i.e. head coach, is extremely important. We know how important that can be. But we're going to talk a little bit about that in the NFL segment. At the end, we're going to look at about, top 5 quarterback coach culture fits. And we're also going to do a little bit of a news segment today on Blue Mafia as we look around the NFL. A little bit of Tin Hat Man. Tin Hat Man Tim's going to come in for the conspiracy angle of hitting. Is it a thing anymore at all? As we see a wily old veteran talk down upon hitting as he talks down to his younger self. We see a hit go unnoticed for an unknown tackling dummy of a QB. I'm just going to give you my take. I've always had this kind of take on respect. Gotta have respect. So yeah, that's going to be a new segment. So let's get right into it. Bears. Bills. Beatdown. My oh my. That was that looked like varsity versus JV when the JV is supposed to be good enough to match the intensity and physicality and effort as the varsity, and they don't. The Bills established that they were taking this as a serious dress rehearsal. At least the offense showed early on with a little bit of tempo. The big talk heading in, obviously, Mitch Trubisky returning. Good move by Tariq Cohen to stick up for a former teammate. But as you know, I was a little skeptical about Mitch. I thought it was all fine and good to hear that he was happy to be in Buffalo, but I was a little skeptical. I wanted to see it. And what a better place to get to show it other than the place that you got kind of ran off. So he went back to his home draft number 2 pick there, underperforming obviously by their standards, but what did we see? We saw a very similar approach and attack from the Bears, and offensively, Andy Dalton, I get it. He is a pro. He is someone who has done a decent job in the AFC North for a few years in Cincinnati, probably overachieved. Great quarterback in college, TCU. Loved watching him. But he's one of those guys that I don't think he deserves to be out there. He deserves to be out there, but Fields clearly, they have a different energy with Fields out there, and Nagy obviously is already on the hot seat. But it was sad to see the effort and energy by the Bears and pro franchise with such a storied past. It reminded me of not too long ago when the Bills were clearly always struggling to find that coach and quarterback balance. But overall, lot of positive on the other side of it. As much as it was a negative day for the Bears, the Buffalo Bills, obviously, you had a lot of hot shining moments. Devin Singletary, firstly, right off the heels of the game 1 where I felt he looked extra sharp and extra explosive. He doubled down on that. I thought that once again he looked extra sharp, dicey, uh, very explosive. And then Zach Moss looked a little bit thicker, but he looks almost like a nice power back. You don't want to bring up great names, but comparable, maybe like a CJ Anderson type bowling ball, come in and smash mouth. And then you got the lightning quick Devin coming in, and he looks great. I'm impressed, and both of them, once again, I think they've both developed over their short time in the league. But I hope we stick around with both of those guys here in Buffalo for a long time. We can't really get overhyped because it's obviously the preseason, but one thing you can get hyped about is this culture is clearly established. Bean, McDermott, Dable, Dorsey, Allen, the rest of the leaders, Poyer, Hyde, there is a clear hierarchy of not only talent, but people put in the right positions to succeed. And it carries all the way down to the last man on the roster. And one thing that's going to be sort of tough to see as we get better every year is you really start to fall in love with even the last guys on the bench. And it's unfortunate that a lot of guys aren't going to make it, because if you look through 1 through 80, a lot of teams around the league, there's been a lot of preseason on. If you've watched any other teams, you just don't see the same type of energy, effort, commitment, execution on the twos. A lot of the ones haven't really played, but the twos, ones probably played a little bit more week 2, and they will play a little bit more in week 3. But the 2s, 3s, 4s, and others, they don't have the same energy as the Bills right now, and it's pretty cool to see. But it's sad that we can only keep 53 practice squad. We'll have a few extras, but it's just impressive to see the culture. And we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna head into conspiracy X-Files corner. Tin Hat Tim's gonna come down, and he's gonna talk about a little bit of the culture of football and hitting the quarterback, legality, because there was a huge hit on quarterback Justin Fields, and I found it a little bit humorous. He was safe, he's okay, but he had said some things in the first game of his NFL career that probably helped lead to that. And I'm going to talk about that unwritten rule with tinfoil hat Tim. And then at the end, we're just going to go over, some of the top quarterback coaching cultures. And then we're going to get out of here so you guys can have a great week. It's a happy Sunday here at Blue Mafia. Take a quick break. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening, guys. It's Blue Mafia. We got a new segment. It's Tin Hat Tim. What's up, guys? It's Tim Hat Tim. I got conspiracy for you. Everybody loves like conspiracy angles right now, and I'm partial. I'm partial to conspiracies and partial to weird theories. I'm creative. I like fiction. I like nonfiction. We got a little bit of both here in the conspiracy angle as I take you through my theory on the nature of hitting in the game of football. When I grew up, there was a thing called bull in the ring. Some kid stood in the middle and everybody else around the ring was given a number, and when the number was called out, you hit the man in the middle. You didn't hit him in the back, and you hit him clean, and we taught clean hitting. You didn't spear, set it right on the inside of the riddles. Even when we had plastic face masks and neck rolls, we're taught the proper way of hitting, and I still think that that's what's most important, because that's how you really keep someone safe, is proper technique. It's a martial art. It's the game of football. You have to tackle safely, and this is a little bit personal to me because I had several concussions as a quarterback throughout my career, and I probably had a couple as a youngster in Little Loop, playing here in Western New York for Airlanes, Tyro. And so my theory's always been some guys end up surviving in the NFL a little bit longer than some other guys. Why does that happen? Maybe sometimes the guy's worth a little bit more money to the big beast that is the league than some other guys. Maybe some guys are a little more controversial for the league, so they're maybe a little bit more volatile for that number going up of rate of inflation that the NFL is desiring at all levels. And I've always had the theory that the guys that talk shit out there, you see Brady talking shit. Some guys talk shit and then they don't get hit out of respect. But if you remember when Tom Brady first came into the league, there's footage of it versus the Bills. He takes a disgusting hit because he forgets that he needs to slide a little bit faster. And he learned that lesson. He learned that lesson hard and fast right there. And that's when he decided that I'm going to get rid of the ball. And he's become a master at it. You have to learn to survive. Drew Brees, another guy, got hurt. He's little. He learned how to get the ball out so fast and be so cerebral that he doesn't get destroyed. There's a certain level of survival. Brett Favre, he was just, he tried everything. He is a big factor in this segment. We'll get to him. But, Brett Favre, psycho. He lasted probably longer than most people do, and he was a warrior. His body broke down. He probably took a lot of painkillers. So I've always had this theory that some guys, there's an unwritten rule where once you reach a level of respect, they'll crush you, but they'll at least not assault you. And Justin Fields got the first lesson in that this week. We saw how the Bills were bloodthirsty on the pass rush, which was awesome to see, by the way. Bills making a big moves in the offseason to enhance that pass rush. And wow, Greg Rousseau, whoo-wee, he is special. But we saw Dalton take a couple big hits. He knows how to take a hit. He's got a big flak jacket. He protects himself. It's almost to a fault because you can tell he's protecting himself so much because he's taking so many shell shock hits that he's out there to protect himself and his family before anything else. And hey, good for him. You see a lot of guys out there protecting themselves. Matt Ryan, a sustainer. Stafford, psycho, hurt often, trying to bleed out there. Rivers, psycho, but he'll talk shit to you, and then he's going to ask his buddies to take care of business for you. There's ways of survival out there. Justin Fields found out how quickly you can get assassinated in his second week. After week one, he had some comments to say about how it was not so fast and not as fast as he thought it was going to be. Well, it got very fast for him. He took a huge shot. He lost his helmet, which speaks also to the tightness of the helmets, guys. Let's tighten them up, tighten those chin straps. Also, another former Bills quarterback, though, in a similar controversial hit, not flagged, leading with his head, sliding head first, quarterback Nate Peterman, in a preseason game, in a gym class hero play. Bless his heart, Christian man. Good for him. He's still in the league. Gruden keeping him around. But he takes a fucking shot to the dome, leading with his head on a run. And I believe it was Warren Sharp shared it. And I just immediately woke up this morning and I had seen that. I watched a little bit of the game, but I saw that tweet and I just immediately said something along the lines of like, oh, come on. It's because it's Nate. If you don't think the world would shut down if that was TB12 getting hit like that. But we remember guys like John Elway leading with his head, sacrificing. That was part of the respect. You don't take a shot on a man that's willing to die out there. Just like Josh Allen, just like a guy like Russell Wilson. There's certain guys that there's a level of respect amongst their peers, and you have to earn it out there. Guy that really did earn it, Brett Favre. Controversially, I just heard through Pat McAfee's podcast. I hadn't seen it yet, and then I watched it. Pretty emotional ad from Brett Favre regarding talking. His younger self is sitting at the table talking to his fictional parents, and then his teenage self is talking to his parents, and then his older self, and he's talking about depression and how he deals with all this stuff because of CTE. And I can't disagree. Like, I feel like as though I also may have some of these symptoms that they talk about. And do I have regrets? I don't think so, though. I loved what I learned from the game, and I don't know what I would be if I didn't learn that. I once asked Kurt Warner on Twitter. He had put out a thing like that he was going to answer questions, and I said, what do you think you would have been if you didn't be a professional quarterback? And he literally wrote, I don't know. And there you go. It's like there's a certain calling to be a quarterback, especially at the highest level. And you have to earn that respect, not only from your teammates that are going to protect you, but those guys are always going to have a chance to kill you. And that's the lesson to young quarterbacks. And that's the conspiracy angle. So thanks for listening. We're going to break out of here. Thanks for listening. It's Tin Hat Tim with Conspiracy Angle. Conspiracy theories. Woo! So the aliens can't read our minds. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the new segment with Tin Hat Tim. We're going to do a little bit of that here and there, but we like to have a little fun and theorize. Everybody does things a little bit different. We try to do shit a little bit different here around Blue Mafia. Everybody's got podcasts, and I encourage everyone to have a podcast. Record, inspire, engage. Those are some of the things that the winning culture, the winning mindset of a coach and a quarterback, a mentor, mentee, Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off, teacher, student, pupil. You have to have someone to learn from, and coaches, quarterbacks, a lot of times it's a weird crossover of generations, political affiliations, economical backgrounds, college, high school, little league, professional. The coach and the quarterback, they come from different places and they have to come together. Sometimes you can control it. Sometimes you got to work with what you got. Some figure out how to work with what they got and they get really good. Some get really good by always being put in a position to succeed. Big Texas football guys, I always dreamed of playing in front of a big Texas crowd so I could prove my shit. But I loved where I played. I played up here in Western New York, and I got to see a lot of Warriors out here. And guys all around Western New York, I still look up to you around the league. Football players, coaches. There's a real love and passion for guys out there that play the game, and you know what I mean if you've played or coached. It's special. It's the closest thing I have to. It's the one thing that I really love, and it's always made me engaged and inspired. So we're gonna look around the league here, and we're gonna just preview and we're not going to rank them, but we're going to look at some real interesting scenarios, because that's really seemingly the key to success for me in my approach to if I was trying to win a Super Bowl. As we see, this is not a Steelers jersey. This is a Willie Beeman Barstool Sports jersey. My name is Willie Beeman. Steamin' Beeman. And Steamin' Beeman and Coach Al Pacino had to get along. Once they got along, they got along. And then they headed out to another team. Make a sequel. Oliver Stone, please make a sequel. It'd be awesome. Follow up to the end of their career in Jacksonville or wherever they went and carry the league along. Work with executives, pros. I'm in. I'll help produce it. But the coach and the quarterback, let's look around the league. Couple, I think, I could talk all day, obviously, about Daboll and Allen and also Ken Dorsey. We know about that. We're homers here in Buffalo, so I'll spare, some of our national audience here at Blue Mafia. We'll talk about them all year, obviously. So other ones, Baker and Stefanski. I think this one is troublesome, especially in the AFC. And I was just talking to my brother about how many young quarterbacks there are coming up in the league, and a lot of them are in the AFC. We'll hear a couple of them here in this list. But Baker Mayfield, he's a guy that I've liked him on the field forever. I've started to not like him when he got into all those commercials. I just got sick of looking at his face a little, but he's still obviously really cool, and he's a great football player. He's a swaggy football player. And Stefanski and him are a great match. Ding, 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 ding. Stefanski, I didn't know much about him, and I still don't. But every time I see him talk, I shut up and listen because he sounds really intelligent. He looks clean-cut, organized, and he is just sharp. You can tell he's probably in on the analytics and the higher echelon statistical aspects, but he's just a good speaker, clear, direct communicator. They're going to be good for a long time. Tom and Bruce, the retirement guys, the geezers, the golfers, the drinkers, the cigar smokers. Tom and Bruce talk about two different ways of life preservation. Bruce, obviously, he's done it all. He's coached amazing teams, players. He's literally successfully now he's a cigar for the rest of his life, because he not only coached greats, not only went to great games, but then was able to wrangle the freaking Mustang that is Tom. And they had some butting heads in the beginning, but they got it together and won the big one already. They might win another one. But as we know, my tin hat Tim, I do think Drew Brees did take a big hit last year because of some things he said in the offseason, and Tom Brady's getting a little bit testy. I don't know. Be careful out there. On the other side of the coin, we talked about Vrabel and the Patriots kind of culture a lot a couple podcasts ago, and we know about Mac Jones and Cam Newton, but not getting a lot of press still is Ryan Tannehill. Guy gets numbers. Guy gets touchdowns. And he's a decent leader. He runs the offense. He's like a superhuman game manager. He's like a superhero jaw manager. Him and Vrabel are just perfect, because though Tanny is tall and handsome, almost like the guy that played Two-Face in Dark Knight, he's not someone that's going to try and be egotistical and say it needs to be more me. And he's got two huge receiver aliens on the outside, alien in the backfield, and a defense. I don't know why the Titans aren't getting more respect. The culture's there. And then a couple question marks. Obviously, big question mark. Can they get it together? They're 13-3 in the last 2 years, and there's question marks. A-Rod and LaFleur, drama queens. West Side Story. West Coast boys in a Midwestern town. And then, interesting one. Tyrod and Cully. David Cully, I think it is. the old guy that's coaching the Texans. He's been around forever. And Rod, my guy, I always root for Rod. Swag the F out, Rod. Let's go. Give him a shot. Let him ride out with Rod. Let Rod ride. Let Rod ride. Let Rod ride. That's what Houston fans should be freaking screaming right now. Is he's got a culture. Tyrod Taylor is not a flashy quarterback, but he's got a winning culture, and if you can put enough around him, he can make you a playoff team. He did it for Buffalo. It wasn't pretty. And when we got to Jacksonville, we got spanked because we were undermanned. And what did Brandon Bean go out and do? He went and overmanned. So, of course, after we had, the root of everything, Josh. And then an interesting kind of two of them with two quarterbacks and one young guy, Sirianni, Western New York ties in Philly. I heard some guys on Pat McAfee doing an impersonation of him, which was a little bit funny. I'm going to have to look more in to see how accurate it was, but it was pretty funny. He sounded kind of just like a generic coach speak, but it was good over on McAfee's pod. But two quarterbacks there. You got Jalen Hurts, who's apparently looking awesome in Pracky, and then you got Joe Flacco, who, in my opinion, looked really engaged and looked like he was like trying to play out here, running 2 minute, looking like old Chuck and Ray Rice out there. But he always throws those little quarterback or those little running back out routes. Literally 50% of Joe Flacco's passes have to be those running back out routes. But two quarterbacks there, two different guys. A young guy, African American, swaggy. An older guy, white, tall, stiff, still swaggy in some weird way. And a young coach. It's just an interesting thing to look at there in Philadelphia. Like old, young, dynamic, quiet, boring. Two guys, one coach. Another different scenario. The Dolphins completely committing to young Tua Tagovailoa. Some Samoan roots, Hawaiian. But a guy like that, and then you have two offensive coordinators. It's like you have last year older, white, bearded Ryan Fitzpatrick from Harvard, and then you've got Alabama, young superstar, hotshot Tua Tagovailoa, possible face of the franchise, face of the league, and then a bearded old vet. So you get the grizzled old vet out of there, and then you have, all right, we're going to give it to Tua. We're going to give it to the young, hotshot, fresh face. Oh, we're going to have two offensive coordinators. I mean, come on. Let the kid eat. Give him somebody to work with that's not named Chan Gailey. I literally did not know this. I looked it up and I was trying to see if Chan Gailey was still farting around in the Miami locker room, because I was thinking about this and I was like, who would I want if I had Tua? First of his kind, really, honestly, in the league, a lefty, shorter guy like that. And I look up to see who their offensive coordinator is, and it says how a co-offensive coordinator plan impacts Tua Dolphins. And I'm like, oh my God. Eric Stoudsville and George Godsey will run their offensive as co-coordinators. So, well, then, here we go. We got two OCs. How's that going to work out for Tua? First of his kind of lefty, short spinster. He's got some talent around him. We'll see. We're going to play him twice. And then lastly, another one. you see some of these that I really like when you've got basically a former quarterback that plays offensive coordinator that played quarterback back in the day and didn't really make it. Like they make it to the NFL or they make it pretty far and maybe start a couple games in the NFL, but they don't really, they peter out or they hold clipboard till they coach. Cowboys had Jason Garrett, who was a longtime backup of Troy Aikman. Frank Reich, we know, backed up Jim Kelly for a long time. Harbaugh, starter, brother, didn't play as much. Kellen Moore, guy that's young, dynamic, part of the Cowboys, lefty, won a lot of games at Boise, and he's got Dak Prescott, a body, a soul that's not his own, probably similar. As we know, quarterbacks are a different breed of heart and leaders. And Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott, they're a match made in heaven because you've got Kellen Moore, smaller lefty leader, Dak Prescott, big thick guy, college runner. Lot of people don't know that. I don't think anybody thought Dak Prescott was going to be the passer that he is. And Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott, another interesting, different cultures, different backgrounds, different paths, and it's cool to see it all come together. So that's it. We kind of talked a little bit about how the coach and the quarterbacks have to come from different backgrounds, and they can come from completely different backgrounds, or you can have people that are kind of like-minded, and maybe they're like-minded in ways that you never would have expected. It's interesting how it all comes together, but everybody's got to buy in, and everybody needs to sort of put their egos at the door and learn about each other and learn about other ways of getting to success, because everybody's got their own way to success. But that way is not going to work for someone who's not exactly like you, but you can find those common denominators and work together and get across that goal line. We talked about, the conspiracy angle of that hit, Fields taking the hit, learning the respect, but also that's a textbook hit. It's a textbook hit. He leans off of him, doesn't land on top of him, turns his head, chest up, neck up. It's literally how they probably teach it. And maybe he brought the arms back a little bit. I love it. I say take the penalty. Remember me next time. I'll be here again. I'll take the flag. Until they change that, quarterbacks that don't get hit in practice and that are supposedly protected by the rules, just hit them. It's a 15-yard penalty, and it sets the tone for the rest of the game. And we talked a little bit about the sad culture of the Bears and how Mitch Trubisky looked pretty good for the Bills, but don't get overhyped. It's still preseason. Can't wait to get into the real season for the Bills so we can really get into breaking down some football, because this is all good and dandy, but hey, once we get into that regular season, then we'll have some fun, guys. Thanks to Tin Hat Tim for coming out today for the mid segment. You want to be a guest? Let's do it. We can do it remote. We can do it in the studio over at Bean Media Productions. Shout out. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you.